All right, let's see if everything is getting started here. We are actually trying to go live on three separate platforms using two different programs. We're live on Instagram, we're live on YouTube, as well as on Twitter or X, as long as my dashboard is telling me correct. So we knew this day would come. We knew this day would arrive, and we've known about it for some time. We've known about it because we've seen it happen to other people. This morning, we received a notification from Instagram that our content cannot be searched or found or shared. And their explanation, as usual, was vague and unceremonious. We've got, we've got finance maneuver in the chat on Instagram going pretty hog wild with their font decisions. So go ahead and fight the good fight, my friend. But this morning we were notified that at least on Instagram, our content will not be able to be searched or searched as easily. And I was out in the wilderness. I was out in town when I got the notification and encountered somebody. We started talking about what we did for work, and sure enough, in order to find even this page, there has to be you have to like go all the way through. You have to get all the letters in, which is interesting because this happens at a really good time for us. I don't mean to be I don't want to even be too aggressive on it. I want to be very clear on this. This happens at a really good time for us. And that is because of one vital component which separates the experienced from the expert. We think of things oftentimes as beginner, intermediate, and expert. And in an earlier episode on the Redacted Culture Cast, we talked about I talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and especially in the arena like CQB, where it's pretty easy to see what it looks like. You get a guy who has no experience, gains some experience and confidence, but he gets stuck in a dogmatic position. Eventually, that confidence has to be broken down and him rebuilt with a wider spectrum of perspective on the subject of CQB. So today, in honor of Instagram and in regards to their decision to minimize our visibility, we are live on YouTube, we are live on Instagram, and we are live on Twitter to get the word out. There's about 1,000 of us. Let's see, our Instagram page is just shy of 9, or is it just above 9,000? And the important message for the day is that Redacted is now fully on us. It's on us as a community, and it's on us as a culture. It's not something that we're going to be able to build on our own anymore. It's a growing production. It's a growing company, and the intent from the beginning of Redacted was to bring philosophy to the field of firearms. It's not that it hasn't been here before, but when we look back in history, the great men that we look up to have a distinct fusion of these two things. They have faith and philosophy, which motivates them and gives them the intellectual tools to engage in this culture, and then they have their tools. Yes, I have done Ben Zucked. It's a really good experience. It's not. It's actually kind of annoying. So the content, the subject of today's live stream, which I hope you take as valuable, is going to be this. It's going to be momentum. The thing that separates an amateur from an intermediate when it comes to CQB is an amateur is still learning all of the different maneuvers. And this can apply to recce, this can apply to field maneuvers, this can apply to ranger school activities, ambushes, and whatever. But an amateur, whether you're shooting competition or you're working in any of these fields, is at that position where he's becoming very skilled with the different maneuvers and movements. An intermediate is now figuring out how to combine those. They try to combine those things into a fluid movement. So an amateur might learn how to draw a handgun, or he might learn how to pie a door, whereas an intermediate will be able to switch from pieing a door to pulling off a hard entry. Something that makes an expert, and what I have seen that really stands out in expert CQB guys, whether they're tier unit guys, civilians even, whether they're, it doesn't matter really what unit you come from or what background you have. What really I look for in a guy when I think that he's an expert at something like CQB is having a deep attunement. They are well tuned to momentum. When you clear a home, or I'm sorry, one thing that one example that one myth that you've seen that has been perpetuated through movies, video games, and culture in its own right is what a flashbang does in a house. We think that a flashbang causes blindness and stuns the enemy, and then it gives the people who are entering the room a split-second advantage to enter in the house and take that advantage. But what momentum really, or I'm sorry, what a flashbang really does for the team is it builds momentum. It restores momentum. Because all that flashbang does for the people inside the room is about a half a second distraction from seeing that thing enter the room if they get to, hearing the noise and realizing it's not a frag grenade, and then they go back to the door because they are expecting to see what happens next. So a flashbang is not like a Call of Duty blinding device. A flashbang in a shoot house scenario is a tool to regain momentum. And you see this in businesses, and you see this in CQB, and you even see it in like paintball or airsoft or any sort of combative field, is that as one team, one side starts winning, if they continue that momentum, they continue to crush in a victorious force over their opponent. Napoleon famously asserted himself in understanding this dynamic when it came to war. The French generals at the time of Napoleon were completely obsessed with, they were completely fixated in this mentality where they would go to fight. There would be sort of a loose declare of victory between one side or the other. It really wasn't like a pomp and circumstance situation. But the goal for the French general during the time of Napoleon was just to not lose. If I go to battle 100 days in a row and I don't lose any of those battles, we haven't lost ground, and I save face in front of the public. But Napoleon had a different idea about war. And he had a different idea about war that made him successful to the extent of becoming the emperor. And that was when he would go to battle against his opponent and he would start to build that momentum with the cannons and artillery and his well-drilled soldiers and his implementation of the non-commissioned officer, which allowed people flexibility and aggressiveness, he would build that momentum such that he completely obliterated his enemy. I know there's like a Napoleon movie coming out or has just been recently released, but when I did my undergraduate, my history minor was almost exclusively on Napoleon, on a good fusion of his politics and his military strategy. But we see this happen in companies as well. You see this happen with personalities as well. So somebody like let's just use an example. Who's the guy who played in The Mandalorian? I forget his name, but you saw him, Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal played in one movie, and then he played in a couple of movies, and then he caught some momentum with a couple of films, and then all of a sudden he was in everything. He was in The Mandalorian, and he was in this, and he was in that. Like the joke got. I even saw the meme start circulating where it was X character has been replaced by Pedro Pascal, or X character has been replaced by who's the guy? Ryan Gosling, literally me. Yeah, don't make a joke. I don't look like him. He looks like me. That's it. Someone go at Ryan Gosling and say he looks like me because it's funny. But what we're going on here is we're talking about momentum. Now, gun culture is a growing experience. First of all, I got to jump into a comment here. Lifehold strategies. I did not know that it happened to a bunch of pages today, but I'm not surprised. So that adds to my point. Gun culture has been building momentum for a while. Redacted has been building momentum for a while. We have been seeing this storm of gun culture build and build. And I don't mean storm in the political way, and I don't mean storm in like the negative, figure out who's left, right, whatever you want to talk about. Gun culture has been building momentum for about a decade. And we keep thinking, very much so, we've been talking about this in the podcast lately, in a von Clausewitzian sense. Like there's going to be some grand victory, some battle, some Lord of the Rings Fields of Pelennor, where you have the forces of good and the forces of evil clash. And a lot of gun culture, a lot of our community has been trying to figure out whether the Fields of Pelennor is the Supreme Court or whether it's in the streets of Minneapolis. What really is going to be the case, and what we're really starting to see as this momentum grows, is that the people who support something like gun control are the exact people who have to lie about everything just to make some momentum. They have to lie. They have to seek after people who are easily swayed. It's quite literally the meme, the creature is afraid. They have to engage in underhanded tactics. What do we see going on in the world around us right now, in America as a whole, the world beyond that? And it's multiple subsections. We see social media absolutely prefers softcore pornography to the education and instruction of honest, safe firearms use. There is no negotiation about this. There is no debate about it. Instagram will come out and they will openly state that they have an algorithm that targets firearms related content. They will build a computer to search through the content that we publish and the things that we present, and they will identify things as being firearms related, and they will minimize it. They won't minimize. Sometimes we will hear the word about shadow banning. Trust me, my content isn't that interesting. I'm just teasing Luke, Southpaw Luke. But there is one aspect where we need to do better. I need to build better content. I need to get my camera set up better. I need to figure out what I'm doing more successfully. I think I'm getting interrupted here. All right, we're back. So there's a side of me that needs to do better. And I admit that. I accept that. That is a joyful burden. The other side of the coin, though, is we have the brace ruling. The brace ruling that came out from the ATF not only came about on dubious means, but it financially, yeah, it's happening live, right? No, I was getting a phone call. The brace ruling financially attacked our culture. They took if they can address the money, if they can take the money out from this community so that you can't support somebody, you can't jump on somebody's page, you can't give a handout, you can't pick up that piece that you need, whether it's a magazine or a piece of kit, a sling, whatever. If we can't participate in our community because none of us have the finances to do it, that's a long tail version of winning the war. So we've got the brace ruling happening. We have a constant, never-ending stigma that is presented by people whose opinions we really don't value, but they have influence. We have issues where people like, what's his name? David Hogg can raise $100,000 in a day on the bodies of children, but gun culture struggles to bring $15 to the table. These are some challenges that we face. But what we have to look at and what we want to talk about here and what I want to encourage you on, most importantly, is that we have momentum. You can't just stop it in its tracks. You can't halt this kind of thing without there being consequences. Hunter S. Thompson famously talks about it in his book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, on how you can see the line in Las Vegas where drug culture reached and then receded back. But what that sentence doesn't say is that it doesn't comment on how it still continues to this day. It just changes its shape, it changes its form. So whether there's a community or there's a culture around that, there certainly is a community and a culture around what we do here at Redacted. And there is a community and a culture about what happens in our environment. So when social media censors our page, when they decide to shut us down, when the ATF comes after us and they attack us for our right to bear arms, when our government officials demonize their own population and then threaten them with M16s, the answer that I have for you is keep the faith, keep the momentum. Carry on, we will make it. This issue about momentum, the point about momentum in a CQB environment is it's what separates the guy who's an intermediate from somebody who's really good at it. Somebody, a person, if you want to get good at CQB, you start with skills, you combine those skills, you humble yourself again, and you start getting in tune with the momentum so that a team that works well together is a team who has synced their reading of momentum. It sounds kind of fanciful. It sounds a little bit mystical, but that's what really makes a good team good, that they have their momentum synced up so that guys know when people are moving and they're able to read off of each other's expressions and movements without having to communicate with words, even so far as lasers or the way that he is standing. And so that as everyone feels the momentum slows down, the guy who's about to get ready to throw a flashbang already has that feeling, and he's just waiting for the trigger. Boom, somebody goes, hey, we need a flashbang for this room, or he's already prepped it because he's the one who makes that decision. Everyone works together. With gun culture and with Redacted, we have momentum. We're growing consistently. The podcast is getting out. The podcast is being spread more and more. We've passed 150,000 downloads. We've grown over the year. We've maintained a growing, consistent momentum from day one to today. But today, things change. Momentum cannot be always carried by one man. The way that this product grows, the way that, not even product, the project, the way that this project grows, the way that this community grows is when we go out and share this stuff with other people. And that means, for some people, that just literally means you share it with one guy. It's a podcast. We talk about something, I bring up a subject. The things that determine the podcast are very often experiences, notes, and commentary that I have had myself or I have read about. I'm trying to be careful not to base it only on my experience, because I don't want to create the false idea of there being what is it called, an authority fallacy. What is it? The fallacy where it's just your position credentialism, basically. But an example that's coming out on Monday is how many of us who have engaged in warfare and violence have built an idol out of dichotomy. We see both good and evil inside of us, and we try to fuse those two together, and it becomes an idol. It becomes something that makes us weak and makes us bad at making decisions. It makes us incapable of fighting a fight effectively, or it's a short-term benefit for a long-term loss. These subjects in the podcast are things that need to be shared. We're still monetized on YouTube somehow. We could probably consider looking at sponsorships or trying to figure out how we're going to continue funding this project, because we've been running Redacted as we've been subsidizing it, basically trying to figure out how to build this company over a year. I'm new at it. I don't know everything that's going on. We're building. But what I need, where we're at as a community, is I am no longer Redacted. Redacted is us. It's how we work within each other. We can start building chapters and building communities and building sections where people get together. Whether you have a group of people that you meet with regularly, or you're looking to integrate to somebody, maybe, let's just say, Redacted is your hub for now. This is a exclusive, it's not exclusive, but this is our goal, where people come together. We have a hub, and I have had the fortune of traveling most of the country and seeing and meeting quite many of you. There's no reason why we can't connect, because if we share our ideas, and the very willingness for somebody to gain or consider what they think about tends to be exactly what is necessary for you to find a comrade or someone to work with. I know comrade communism, that's all garbage. But the fact that we are willing to approach the subject is alone the initiation. It's the evidence of momentum. So what I am saying, and as we close today, this live, I know we've been trying to do it on a couple different platforms, whether it's Instagram, we've got YouTube in the background, and then we've got, I think we're also live on Twitter. The thing that we need to accomplish, the thing that I want to encourage you with, is that we as gun culture, we as a community, we have momentum. We are actually crashing forward through time, gaining momentum as we go. We're not at our final form yet. This isn't an anime, but I know I got the hair. Don't at me about it. But we are growing. We are expanding, and Instagram has gone so far to notice it and deliberately choose to minimize our reach. That means that in order for this community to grow, for gun culture to grow, we have to do it ourselves. And I can only do so much. I need your help. So if I can do that, if I can continue to play my part where I am presenting this information, I'm passing on philosophy, and I'm going on. Yeah, right. We haven't gone Super Saiyan yet. That's a comment on Instagram for those who are watching on YouTube. But as we continue to expand, as we continue to grow, we're looking at adding more material to the Black site, which is you can all support us there, or just sharing that stuff. You share, you take it, if there's a podcast that particularly is impactful, you share it with one person, might feel a little weird. You share it with the second person, now you're starting to build community. You share it with that third person, now you've got an idea that you're discussing with people, and that ideas outweigh armies. The fact that the ATF is trying to minimize our presence in this country is evidence that we are succeeding. The fact that Instagram is willing to censor gun content or firearms content, safety oriented, culture oriented. You if you've listened to our show, you know exactly what we talk about. We are interested in looking at how something that people call fifth generation warfare, or how the culture has shifted where wars no longer look so simple. They don't have a beginning and an end. They're not so easily contained into this idea of, well, Congress declared war and then we nuked Hiroshima and it was over. Like, wars stretch through time. Conflict invades the fringes, it participates in the fringes. And so for those of us who are actually concerned about doing not the expedient thing, but the moral thing, understanding the framework of morality, Instagram has chosen that that is not their goal. They would prefer softcore porn. That's what they want. They want you drugged up, looking at porn, and dying. So it's just kind of like the VA. What does the VA want people to accomplish? Probably not living. So, in conclusion, in closing, we know that we knew this day would come. We knew the day would come where Instagram would attack us. They would say, hey, I mean, it's not really attacking, but you get what you want to call it. Instagram would finally notice little old me, and they would say, we don't want to let you, we don't want people to find you because you're dangerous. You're dangerous because you might be pursuing something virtuous. So Instagram chooses to hide our content. So be it. You know what happens? We have momentum. We have momentum moving forward. We are moving through culture, building our values, building a sense of community around us. And now they know that. They know that. We know that. Everybody's a part of the game. So the solution to censorship is momentum. We're sure if we had 7 million followers, maybe then Instagram would care, but they're not going to. They don't want to be held accountable to that standard. There is a advantage for only promoting licentiousness, because then you cannot be held to a moral standard. But we believe in something greater than ourselves, that it is not about vengeance or self-defense alone, but that we desire to live rightly for what is right and true and good. And in order to do that, we must pursue that. If we are going to continue as a community, we are going to continue to work as a community. I'm here for you. You know how to reach me. You can get a hold of me on Instagram. You can get a hold of us through multiple methods. I'm the guy who answers a lot of the questions. So actually, I'm the guy who answers all of the questions. Let's just not be, fuzzy about it. So you got questions, you got stuff that you want to reach out to me about, you got things going on in your life you want to have a conversation about, you reach out to us on Redacted LLC. If we add value to your life, all we ask is that you share it with somebody else. If we add value, all we ask is that you spread the word, because we can't grow alone anymore. Big tech is starting to figure out, social media is going to figure it out, and they don't want us to grow. So we will do it ourselves because we have the momentum. We have virtue on our side. So if that has been the case, thank you very much. We're going to close up for today. There's another episode coming out Monday morning on how dichotomy can become an idol. But for this interruption of your Friday afternoon, enjoy your weekend for me. I will be back at the working desk. So we'll talk to you soon, and thank you very much. Godspeed.